There's something so horrifying about this illustration of Thresh from the new illustrated book, and I personally believe that it's because it's not an image of Thresh that I had imagined before. This illustration is clearly from only a few seconds after he had killed Clove. As you can see, her body lying behind him, and the rock is still in his hand. Thresh's strength and size is made overwhelmingly clear in the books. Katniss makes it very clear in the books that the careers are significantly bigger than her and many others, due to the starvation going on in the districts, whereas the career districts did not have to struggle with that. So when reading the books, we're aware that Clove is at least 40 pounds heavier than Katniss, which Katniss says. And although Thresh is not a career, he is also described as being strong. Katniss says he's at least 6.5 feet tall. He is immediately able to overpower Clove. I mean, Katniss says she's like a rag doll and that he imprisons her in his arms. And when he kills Clove, he is angry, he is filled with rage, and as he should be. But he hits her with the rock one time. She dies from that single hit with the rock. And her skull is dented. Can you imagine? Can you think about the pure force, the strength he would have to use to do that? Even when he spares Katniss's life, Katniss describes conflicting emotions crossing his face, but never anything like this. In my personal opinion, engaging in fandom discourse, Thresh is one of the most forgotten about characters, especially when it comes to discussing how every single tribute was a child. There's a lot of discourse on the careers and how they were just children, and I agree. But I don't see as much discourse on the fact that Thresh was also a child. That might be because he was never seen as a villain in Katniss's eyes, as an antagonist, so people don't feel the need to defend him like they feel the need to defend the career tributes. People feel the need to defend the careers for being groomed into the lifestyle of taking joy from the Hunger Games. Thresh doesn't need that, but because there are less discussions on him, that also means that there's less discussions of the trauma that he would have faced in the games. And it makes me wonder if it's because he seems so strong. But I also believe that part of the reason for that is because we never really see a moment of insecurity in Thresh's character, or a moment of fear. Katniss never sees his death, so the reader just remembers him as being strong and powerful. But I also think that this could be commentary on how black children are treated, especially the boys. There's this thing called adultification, and if you don't know what that is, it is a racial bias. It's basically when people perceive a black child as older or less innocent than a white child of the same age. And I think that this definitely applies in terms of Thresh. He's a character who's often not thought of first when discussing the tributes of the 74th Hunger Games. Forgotten in favor of talking about Foxface or Marvel, meaning that we also forget that Thresh and Cato were the same age. He was a kid who witnessed horrible things, and his family was waiting for him, probably thinking that he had an actual chance of coming home. And that's not to shame or to blame anybody, it was just a thought that I was having while I was looking at the illustration. All of the tributes were victims. All of the people from the districts were victims of the Capitol. But it's always upset me that Thresh wasn't talked about as much as some of the other tributes, because I've always thought his character was very, very important. And this illustration just changed my whole line of thinking around his character completely. Because here he is, depicted as everyone should be seeing him, a child who is scared and upset. A strong child, a large child, but a child.